Okay, welcome to Power Pivots, the podcast where we explore the stories behind the fundamental career shifts and changes that have made all the difference. I'm your host. I go by Hatu, and today I am joined by
Philinese Kirkwood.
Philinese. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well as well. I'm really glad to have you on here. I am excited to talk about the wonderful world of production, learn more about what that is for those of us who do not know, and being able to understand more about how you have been able to take your corporate production experience to be able to kind of do your own thing.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to share. It's still always learning in progress, but I'm excited.
Of course, of course, of course. Well, we're going to start today, like we start all of our shows, with the PowerPoints. So PowerPoints are 3 words or phrases that you believe encapsulate who you are. Tell us a little bit more about you. So that being said, Elenice, what would you say your PowerPoints are?
Curious,
Okay.
disciplined,
Okay.
and fair.
Okay. Curious, disciplined, fair. We will take them. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Morality. Okay. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to choose those 3 words.
Absolutely. It's when I think of myself, and I also kind of think about how others would describe me as well. Everyone, and I would say a lot of my closest friends would say that I'm probably one of the most disciplined people that they've ever met. When I set my mind to something, whether it be a particular project or something personal, whether it's like a health goal, I just make sure to outline like a very strategic plan. So I'm just sticking with it. I'm very competitive with myself, not others. So I would definitely say disciplined. Curious is I'm so curious in terms of up and coming directors, photographers, new creative talent. It's really important for me to ensure that I understand a lot of new creatives. So my entire day is usually always filled with Instagram and also the director's library. I love that source. So I'm very curious in terms of what's the new production tools, what are the new camera equipment, like what are the new lighting, what are the new approaches. I'd say fair in that I always see myself as I like to treat people fairly. I have felt that there are times that within my career I was treated a little unfairly. So it's really important to me that I treat others fairly in terms of giving them opportunity and just creating new contexts as well.
Awesome. 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 Very good. All right. Curious, disciplined, and fair. We have a good understanding of that for sure from you. Thank you for giving us that. And I'm sure that is going to come up more throughout the conversation of why those, fit in with who you are and why those are your PowerPoints. But from there, we are going to talk about your hindsight story. So they say that the story is always told in hindsight, and hindsight is 2020. So, Philnice, if you will humor me here and put on your glasses for that 2020 vision in hindsight and tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible or expedite the story. But I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I went to school for liberal arts school, Rhodes College is a private liberal arts school. And I always thought I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. And then I realized the number of math and science classes I had to take. And that did not intrigue me at all. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But within that time at Rhodes College, I began taking a lot of political classes, and I also was very interested in theater, that I ended up majoring in political science, where I thought I wanted to write congressional campaign speeches, which is so particular, which is so funny to me.
Yeah.
And with my theater minor, I love to perform. I loved being on stage. I loved being able to recite lines. So they didn't have a film program, but I knew that theater was the next best thing. When I graduated from college, I moved immediately to New York, and I was not getting any jobs at any news networks or nothing in terms of objective content that I wanted to do. I had a friend that worked at Ogilvy and Mather, and she said that they are looking for production assistants, and I was absolutely against it. I said, no, I don't want to do anything that's like fake. That's totally subjective. I want to work in news. And she was like, girlfriend, you need a job. So
friend.
Yeah, literally was just like, you need a job. So I became a production assistant for a British Airways campaign commercial that they were shooting. And every day before the shoot, you get call sheets, and I would look at the call sheet and I would look at all the different roles. I would say, okay, what's a gaffer? What is a grip? What does the costume designer do? What does the DP do? What does the first AC do? And I would go to set, and while I had production tasks in terms of ensuring that crafty was set up or ensuring that I also understood the schedule, I would ask all the crew members, what do you do? Just to have like a little insight about their role. Well, the
Hmm.
director took a very keen liking to me, and he said, Philinese, I think you're very organized. I like all the questions that you ask. You're very dependable. I would like to keep you on through the post production process of this commercial. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, what's post? And he said, well, that's, where everything we've shot, you're going to see actually it come to life. So that's the editing, that's the telecine, that's the audio mix. It was pretty much seeing how a mini movie was being made.
Hmm.
And from there, I was just completely intrigued. I did not realize all of the work and effort and the number of people and the creative teams it took just to create this commercial. And after I did that one production, I was like a production assistant for a contract job for Ogilvy. I went on and became a production assistant at Interactive One. That is the media company of TV One.
Hmm.
And I was Smokey Fontaine's production assistant for about a year and a half, where I worked on a number of broadcast music specials, including Trey Songz, Jennifer Hudson, Babyface, Tony Braxton, where it was almost like a behind the music where there was a documentary interview portion, and then we also had like a live show, so it incorporated events and also broadcast interview. And after that, within my career, I really kind of dived into the advertising aspect within that
Hmm.
program, that I then ended up working at a number of agencies in New York City. And I became the translations NBA agency of record producer. So I was doing a number of NBA commercials and also Sprite. Champ Sports, got to work with Ray Shrimmerd when they were first on the scene for a number of their new songs.
Hmm.
Unlock the Swag, we did that for Champ Sports. I also did produce a number of State Farm commercials. What's interesting about that time when I was a producer is working with a lot of athletes. And on one of the State Farm commercials, I actually had one of the athletes ask me, what do I do? I said,
Hmm.
oh, I'm a producer for the agency. And they were like, well, how come there's no other Black people? I looked around and I had always realized that I was like the only Black person usually, but it was the first time that like someone had actually asked me, why
Yeah.
was I the only Black person?
Yeah. And you think
And
about it.
yeah, and I thought about it, and I told the athlete, I said, well, the line producer is actually the one that's responsible for hiring crew. I was
Hmm.
like, I'm the agency producer that I've hired the production company and I work closely with the line producer, but like that's not necessarily my role. So
Hmm.
he asked me, well, why don't you be a line producer? And that is truly how my production experience went from being in an agency in terms of creating marketing campaigns and hiring a production company to me wanting to really be in the weeds and having that manager, that experience, having that kind of authority to be able to hire crew and create a very colorful and very diverse group of crew members that I felt was
Hmm.
representative to creative. And from that agency job, it kind of just kept shifting. I line produced a number of branded content for Marc Jacobs, Maybelline. I did a few beauty things, and I also did produce a Hulu docu-series actually called Around the Way. And in 2021, Netflix poached me. They were looking for a producer to work in their internal department. And
Hmm.
I took the job. I relocated from New York to LA. And while I was excited for Netflix, I didn't understand that Netflix is actually a data company. They're not an entertainment company, like a production company. And that I just didn't understand. But what was so great about being at Netflix is I learned how much data insights really drive the type of content that they produce. And gaining those marketing skills was so essential and so eye opening for me. Like, no one knows data like Netflix.
Yeah.
But I have to be completely honest, I was also a little bored at Netflix in terms of the department that I was working in. My dream was to work in the film department, and I wanted to be challenged in terms of the content that we were producing, in terms of more storytelling and narrative content. That within my first year at Netflix, I just met a lot of people within the film entertainment industry, and I networked a lot within Netflix, like just talking to people that worked in other departments. And I was approached to produce a short film, and I got very, very, very busy on that short film that I ended up making the decision to leave and kind of come independent for the first time, as I one, had never really done my own thing, and two, I had always had a great kind of Rolodex and also a list of like diverse directors and crew members that people would always ask me, "Hey, do you have a recommendation for a DP or an AC
Mm,
or a grip or gaffer?" Just
yeah.
something that I enjoyed, that curiosity of me of always building a list. And I created Lottie Productions because I really wanted to be more of a developing service partner for
Yeah.
brands and creatives who wanted to execute their idea. Because I don't think of myself as very creative. Like, I come up with creative solutions, but people or creatives will come to me and say, "Hey, I have this idea, but I don't know how to execute it." So
Hmm.
with that, it's my job to come up with budgets, to bid approaches for what's the best way for us to shoot this, to also come up with creative decks, and also financing, fundraising, and development. And so far, for 3 years, it's been really, really, really an amazing ride of a number of content that I've been able to produce as well, in terms from short films to commercials to working on branded campaigns as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. There's a lot
Oh
of
my
good
God,
stuff
that was a
there.
lot. I got to
No,
get
it's
that down.
good. It's good. It's good. It's good. There was a lot of good stuff in there, and we needed to hear the whole thing, honestly. And I want to take it from this angle first. So, you just gave a great overview of how you build expertise, right, in a certain function or in a certain industry, right? So, first things first, you're very curious. You weren't necessarily excited about the position that you were initially in, but you really made the most out of it, right? Whether it was just understanding what everybody else did and having the
Yeah,
true curiosity to really dive into that. That's something that's so key because you could have just said, yeah, I'm not really that interested in this. I'll just do what I have to do to get a check and call it a day, right? So that's the first step, right? The other aspect is obviously you're doing well in these things, right? If you take these different positions on, you're actually doing well and providing value, right? Because
yeah,
it leads to the next part of building network. Because if you're not doing well, that could sully your network and nobody wants to work with you, right? Or people won't ask you for recommendation for another production or for another role that they have, like gaffer, like you mentioned, which I don't even know what a gaffer is. I'm not gonna lie to you, but something like that as an
yeah,
example, right? So you've really shown like how you're able to take the ball and run with it and really build out expertise. And if you're looking to branch out, you have to build expertise to solve a problem for people, right? Clearly, you have built production expertise, and ironically, you work with creatives as someone who's not a creative, but like you mentioned, you're able to help creatives, right, to be able to execute on things that they couldn't execute on themselves.
yeah.
And they view that as something that's valuable because you have put in that work of uh, from a discipline standpoint, right? And you've put in the work to be able to become a subject matter expert.
Absolutely. I try.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it
Uh,
is important. How did you know, right, that it was the right time? I know that you obviously had the job at Netflix and things were a little different than what you expected, but how did you know it was the right time to go from um, focus on production to more so providing production services?
in all transparency, I did not know it was the right time per se. The time kind of told me. In
Mhm.
2022, as I'm sure everyone remembers, Netflix had company wide layoffs. Everyone in my department feared for their job.
Yeah,
And I also remember just talking to other people that worked, within the company, that they were like, if I don't have a job, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I remember saying, God, I never want to be in that position. And just always hearing from others, they're like, you should start your own thing. Like, you should have a production company. You should represent, photographers and directors. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. I think
yeah,
it's more like, I'm definitely a mama bear, but like, I think it's maybe like, I didn't want to be responsible for constantly getting photographers and directors jobs. I
right.
just wanted to be able to execute their vision. And I just started learning that also the way that I put together production approaches are just very thoughtful and intentional. And I only wanted to work on work that I enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's important too, right? That's very, very important because I hear that all the time. I used to hear it for my for myself from when it comes to talent. It's like, oh yeah, you should do your own thing. You should do your own thing, and people kind of say it when they see you progressing and succeeding. But there's a lot that goes into that,
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah.
So one of the biggest things I think, and even if you do take that advice, right, it's important to know what you want. And that distinction is very, very critical, because just because you're good at something and have added value for people and you've done it, does not necessarily mean that that's where you want your career to go. Right. So, and it's
Yes.
important to listen to that.
Yes. For
Yeah.
sure.
Has Power Pivots inspired you to reevaluate your career path? If so, look into Power Pivots career coaching. Whether you're interested in career discovery, job description dissection, or interview prep, I take a tailored approach to helping you understand your ultimate career goals and get closer to them. Interested? Fill out the interest form at the bottom of the show notes for your free 30-minute consultation. For any questions, email hatu@powerpivots.co. That's HATU at powerpivots.co. As always, pivot powerfully. Okay, so you knew that representing photographers and finding them jobs wasn't
Yeah.
really how you wanted to go. What was that like light bulb moment where you're like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it, and this is what I'm going to focus on?
That's a really great question. I knew that I just didn't want to be a freelance line producer.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something that was scalable. And I also did research trying to find other companies that were doing anything kind of this. Like, there are definitely production service companies.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just didn't want to line produce. I wanted to also find a way where I was kind of making sure that creatives or these clients that I'm working with, I was finding production efficiencies for them so that they would ultimately want to continue working with me.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, like just not thinking, oh, she's a line producer, but she's also thinking about getting, results for the business.
Right.
And I don't know. I think that honestly probably came from my experience working at Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about just results and wanting
Yeah.
results for a business and why they matter.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that just kind of just shows how every experience, whether it's positive or negative, can add something throughout your career and really
Yes.
help you build upon it, right? Like, just even again, we're going back to the same research and curiosity, right? Just vociferously reading through materials and getting an understanding of the layout of the industry and the different opportunities that exist. Had you not done that, you wouldn't have known that that existed. Had
Right.
you not had that time in Netflix where, you weren't pleased by it, but had you not had it, you may not have had the same approach to, okay, let me find something that's focused on driving results for others, or that encapsulates data in a certain way to be able to do that and
Right.
track
Yeah,
and measure it.
for sure.
So, okay, perfect. So let's talk resources, right? Obviously, this is like all well and good, and we talked about the research that you did and the work that went in years before to get to this point. But when you did make that switch, right, what are some of the resources that you used to be able to make it a reality?
Resources I did to make it a reality. It's interesting that you said that because I've always had a very much a business mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also, my dad's an entrepreneur. And I think it's also kind of just talking with other producers and EPs about how, when you manage a team, what really works
Mm-hmm.
the best, what works well, doing online research about how to be sustainable. I think that's very helpful. But I wish I had a better answer, to be completely honest, in terms of resources. Sometimes I felt like I am in a ship that's going really, really fast.
Yeah.
And I'm also competing with so many other, I know, companies and services, I'm sure, that do the same thing. But resources, I truly think it's going back to like my managers that I've had, agencies I've worked at, talking to other creatives who've been independent, learning also kind of chatting with other photographers and directors I've worked with about like what
Mm-hmm.
works well, what do they like in their producers. So I'd say those are probably the best resources.
Yeah, and I wouldn't skip over that, right, or gloss over it at all. I think what you said definitely was a lot. Like, a lot of times we talk about on the show here that your network is arguably your best resource, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
being able to find opportunity, whether it's being able to kick the tires on an idea, whether it's being able to understand what are some like best practices, like you said right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like proving out the viability of any pivot consistently, Research is extremely important. And yes, you can research in many different like forums, but being able to talk to people who would either be customers or who are currently doing something similar, that's so invaluable.
Oh yeah.
So the network, right? The network cannot be overlooked as a resource, especially when you're trying to make a career pivot for sure.
And that's also being kind to people, also
Yes.
very helpful.
Yes. Kind to people and fair
And
because
fair. Yes.
they
Yes.
remember it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
Yes.
remember. Because if you weren't, then they'd be like, ah, well, I don't really have time to speak, or oh, I don't really know. Like they'll gloss over. They really won't give you the real. But I'm sure
Mm,
there are people who had very honest and real conversations with you because you came to them with that same kind of energy.
for sure.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about how you're able to drum up business, as they say, right?
Yeah.
I know that the entrepreneurship ride is not easy at all whatsoever. And a lot of it ends up being how much business you can generate and make it sustainable. And like you say, you're trying to create something that's scalable. How do you go about bringing clients with you or getting new clients and things of that nature?
No, that's a really, 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 really great question. I think as I, mentioned a little bit before, I had always built a really great network and I have an amazing Rolodex of
Hmm.
creatives. And all of my work, I've been very fortunate, has all been by referrals.
Hmm.
And in a way, I'm so happy to say that. And it pleases me when someone, will email me and say, hi, someone said that so and so said that they worked with you. Or, I happen to see a credit on your name for like a New Balance project and, wanted to see the work. And I've met literally people at the Delta Lounge Airport. I'm not
Yeah,
exaggerating,
she's a
that
Delta girly.
actually told me that the person happened to work at a major studio, and I told him I really wanted to produce a short film or produce like a feature film, and he just enjoyed our conversation. That he gave me his email address, and I actually followed up with that email and said, hey, just want to tell you, this is my background, this is what I'm doing. I have not done a feature film, but this is what I would like to do, and this is why all of my skills could easily be applied. So I think it's truly like when you're networking with people and having the referrals. But we're at this space right now where we're also knowing that referrals isn't sustainable.
Mm,
So trying to also come up with, creative ways to market and value Lottie, the name of the company,
Lottie, yep.
Lottie as a really truly being a production service partner.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. That's super helpful. And for you, why would you say overall in your career that your power pivot has been so crucial or critical?
I would say that my power pivot has been so crucial because one, it showed me that I could do it,
Hmm.
that I could create a service that creatives and clients have enjoyed working with me. Whenever I get feedback, just showing like how detail oriented, how organized, how I've saved them money in terms of the budget, how just pleasurable it is just to work with me. And hearing that, I get so happy, and I'm just like, wow, all of my skills, and my time and my effort and blood, sweat, and tears has really been put to use. It's also, a chance where it's also very challenging. Like I came from New York, I didn't have a really big network in Los Angeles. So I try to, have a global reach where I'm also working in New York and LA and just trying to, get work globally. But I'm very, very appreciative and I'm very proud of where I am, but every day I'm constantly thinking how to continue to grow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you said there, the last thing was extremely important, right? It's like you have to look back on the progress that you've made and almost like pat yourself on the back. And pat yourself on the back does not
Yeah.
mean that you're giving up or you're just saying, I'm content with where I am. You keep going, but you have to look like year over year, like what progress have I made? Because I feel like sometimes when folks are pivoting and things are going well and they have a lot more to go or they want to grow a lot more, they want to scale a lot more, they focus on where they're trying to go, which is important, right? To have a goal
Yeah.
mindset. But at the same time, you really have to think of what you've been able to accomplish and say, wow, this time last year, I was not anywhere close to this. And I was like
Yeah.
hoping and praying that I would be. And now look at where I am.
No, absolutely.
So Let's talk more about production. We've spent this time talking about production. It may be a little late. Hopefully, it's not. But I guess if you could summarize for folks what production entails or what doesn't entail, I feel like it's so much, what production entails. And then for someone who's looking to break in and follow maybe a similar path, what does that look like?
Absolutely. I have always seen production is a key in the vision to execution. We are executing creative ideas. And when it comes to production, there are lots of different types of producers. When I'm also just thinking like overall scale, like it also depends on the type of content that you're producing. There
Mm-hmm.
are photo producers, or, they also call them art buyers, where you are working specifically with photographers and understanding the usage and the content. There are lots of different types of photographers. There are film producers that do feature films, short films. There are executive producers that are usually kind of more overall in terms of financing. My background is line producing, and line producing is so important. And the reason why line producers are essential is that they are truly setting up the guidelines, the approach, and the budget for execution. They are taking an idea and figuring out all of the steps and all the ambiguity and making it into small actionable steps to be executed. So once I get a creative idea, which it might be a script, it might just be a deck, I kind of go sit, review it, and I kind of put together a calendar, a timeline, how it can actually be executed, how I'm looking if this should be shot on location or if this should be in a studio. I also do a budget. I also kind of determine where we should shoot it. Also, if there's music, are we going to license the music? Are we going to use stock music? So it's truly
Mm-hmm.
thinking of all the pieces for execution while also managing all the logistics as well, and
Yeah.
also all the different types of personalities and people. So line producers are extremely important for I almost see myself as a detective. When
Okay.
you are a detective, you are just figuring out all the little pieces to solve some type of puzzle, creating a puzzle, a mystery. Like we are putting all of those pieces together.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And for folks, as I mentioned before, if you are looking to pivot into production or becoming a producer, think of all that she just said right there and
Yeah,
think of how your skills relate because there are a lot of transferable skills. And I'm thinking of some titles right now of people who could be, project managers or product managers, right? Who
absolutely.
would probably have transferable skill sets that would focus into or lean into production as well. So,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
vice
couldn't agree
versa.
more.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk advice. I want you to kind of think of all that you've just told us right here. And this has been so great. What is some advice that you would give yourself from this standpoint, from this vantage point, pre pivot, right? And then from now, what is some encouragement that you give to yourself? What is some advice that you give to yourself currently now?
Pre pivot, I would give the advice to myself: listen more.
Mm.
Like I was, I think, and I've always been a good listener, but just listen more, listen more, talk less. And when I say like talk less, I'm saying you don't need to tell everyone your move. You don't,
Oh,
I would keep some things to yourself.
mm,
Um, because I'm also a very person is that I don't necessarily need you to know how I'm moving, but just know I'm moving. And,
yeah,
and I'll be ready to share when I'm ready to share.
yeah, yeah.
Because I think a lot of people will, I dealt with a lot of questioning if I could actually do this, because I think I was just kind of maybe talking a little too early,
Hmm.
preemptively of like what I was going to do in terms of a pivot. I would give myself that advice. Just
Yeah.
listen more. You don't have
Okay.
to let everyone know.
Yeah.
In hindsight now, I think what I would tell myself now: stop self-doubting yourself.
Mm,
And right now is a time to just be a little bit more innovative and also embracing technology,
yeah. Oh,
embracing things that are here to stay. For
yeah.
example, AI,
Hmm.
embracing it and finding out how I can actually benefit AI in the production space.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Listen, at this point, it's like you have to silence the voices. You really have to
Yes.
silence the voices. And there's a difference between listening to encouragement or listening to sound advice and, just shutting out the naysayers, the doubters, the haters, all of them, right? Because they
Yes.
always will try, and especially in a pivot, they're like, oh, is that what you went to school for? Oh, is that where your experience has been before? Are you sure that you can do this? It's really competitive. You don't want to listen to any of that, right?
No, you don't.
Yeah, pivots are possible, and you have shown here clearly that it's definitely difficult, but it's possible to happen.
Yes.
So, what's next, Philinese? What's next? What are you excited about? What is
Yeah.
Lottie excited about? Like, what are we looking forward to in the future?
What I'm really, really excited for Lottie, as I kind of went through that, majority of my experience, my career has been in the TV advertising space. Lottie, we've now produced two short films and we're currently in development of our third. I would really like to focus us committing to producing one short film a year from an underrepresented talent. And that is from the development to the fundraising to the production, really committing to one a year. And I've done that so far. I did in 2023, 24, and now I'm in year 2025 that I am, in development for our third. I want to commit doing that, but making
Hmm.
sure it's like underrepresented talent and making sure that, these creative voices and stories are being heard.
Awesome, awesome. And last, to finish it all off, any parting words of wisdom for folks who have listened to this, are inspired by your story, hope to do something similar? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that it's okay to face challenges. It's okay to be nervous. I think it's okay sometimes to have a little doubt, but it's also really important to overcome that and also surrounding yourself with positivity and also surrounding yourself with people that are doing things that you want to do.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it, y'all. There you have it. There you have it. Philinese, thank you so much for sharing
Thank
all your wisdom
you.
with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope this is helpful.
Absolutely. I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it has been for me, even, right?
Oh,
Like hearing
great.
some of these things. So this is fantastic.
Awesome. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Of course. And thank you all for tuning in. Please remember to like and subscribe for more. Most importantly, pivot powerfully. Be well, everyone.